Okay, so question 4 is fairly similar to question 3 in that we've got an investigation into different slimming programs. So this one we investigated 4 over 6 months. They had a group of 40 people for each slimming program and a control group. Each of the 5 groups was matched for age, gender and mass. So here's the graph, the mass lost in kilogram by each person in the trial over 6 months. The Atkins, Weight Watchers, Slim Fast, Rosemary Connolly and a control group, and the key tells us that that little line there is the mean loss for that group over 6 months. Okay, so question A, give 2 control variables that were used in the study. So 2 things that were kept the same to make this a valid and fair test. Well, straight away, going from there, we've got age, we've got gender, we've got mass, and we've also got time, and we've also got 40 people in each group. So you can choose any 2 of those. If I put in there age and gender, then that would be enough to get me my 2 marks. That would be no problem. Okay, part B, give 2 conclusions that could be drawn from the results of this study. So any 2 from, well, which was the best diet, which appeared to be the best and produced the biggest loss, and you can see there Rosemary Connolly just edges it, taking that mean value. I'd use a ruler in the exam and I would push that across there. So I would say most mass lost with Rosemary Connolly, and the one that showed the least loss would clearly be the control group, the people following the normal diet. So I would say the least loss with the control group, and that's your 2 marks that you're going to get there. Okay, so moving on to the next page for part C. The cost of the 4 programs were as follows. The Atkins diets cost £3, Rosemary Connolly classes cost £140 for 6 months, Weight Watchers £170 for 6 months. The twice daily Slim Fast meal replacements were £240 for 6 months. So use this information and the graph from the previous page to answer this question. Which is the most cost effective of the 4 programs? Well, we know that Rosemary Connolly was the best, but it was only very slight, and it does cost £140, whereas Atkins only cost £3. So for that reason, the most cost effective, remember it's not saying the most effective, but it's the one, you know, how much bang you get for your buck, I guess, then the answer there is clearly going to be Atkins. Okay, and that'll be enough for my first mark. The reason is what I need to give for my second mark. So there I've got to say that the mass loss is similar for all programs. Oops, apologies for my writing there, it's going off the page somewhere. And it had the second highest mass loss compared to the other 2, and the fact that it's pure and simple, it costs the least amount. So maybe I've gone a bit over the top there, I've put a little bit more than perhaps I needed to, but I've definitely explained it there. It cost the least amount. The mass loss is similar for all the programs, and it has the second highest mass loss compared to all of them. Okay, part D. Some slimming programs include daily exercise. Explain how daily exercise helps a person to lose mass. Okay, so think about the benefits of exercise. So we talked there about increased metabolic rate, or increased rate of respiration. Don't put increased sweating or anything like that. We often get that in the exams. You put silly things like that down, so don't go down that road. That therefore needs more energy. That energy comes from food. And if you're taking that energy from the food, then less energy is stored as fat. So I always say to all my students to state the obvious. You see, you're really putting that on a plate for people. Be really obvious. We're increasing the metabolic rate, or increasing the rate of respiration. That needs more energy. We get that energy from our food, and if we're taking that energy from the food, then there's less energy available to be stored as fat. Okay, and that is 8 marks in the bag. Okay, question 5 is a 4-mark question, and there we go. A healthy diet gives the right balance of different foods you need and the right amount of energy. Okay, so there's the diagram you've probably seen many times before in different formats. Part A, give 2 possible effects on the body of a diet that is not balanced. Okay, so what goes wrong if you don't follow a balanced diet? So if you're getting too much energy than you require, then clearly you're going to become overweight. If you're not consuming enough, as you should do in terms of energy balance, then you could become underweight. So either one of those, looking at it from that way. You could suffer from any one of the multitude of deficiency diseases that we've talked about. So we're talking there things like scurvy, and you could also mention there diabetes, type 2 diabetes could also be a possible effect there, so 2 marks. Part B, the food we eat can affect how much cholesterol is in the blood. Give one other factor that can affect how much cholesterol is in the blood. Well, there's an inherited factor here, okay, so we could simply go for that. So you could say inherited, we're in the genes. You could also mention the fact that if somebody's using statins, their age, their gender, the amount of exercise, stress, smoking even as well has been shown to have an impact on that, okay, but that I think is the answer that I would go for there. Part C, again for 1 mark, eating a balanced diet can help people to stay healthy. What else can people do to stay healthy? Well, the obvious example, and thinking back to the previous question there, is clearly going to be to exercise. Any suitable example, I mean, you could actually put an example of the type of exercise or sport that they could follow. You could also say avoid smoking, taking drugs, drinking alcohol, and any of those would be enough for that final mark. So that really was a fast question there. So there's